Well, the chimes in the background on the Old Main clock tower tell me it's 9 o'clock in Happy Valley. It's Wednesday morning and it's time for the Penn State Alumni Association's coffee hour. Thank you all for joining us. We have a great program lined up for you today. Coffee hour today, presented by the Penn State Alumni Association, will feature Mike Xenakis. Mike is the Chief Product Officer for Vacasa, a great vacation app that he's going to talk all about. And we're going to hear about Mike's entrepreneurial journey. We're going to talk about his time as a Penn Stater and his service to our nation in the U.S. Air Force. Thank you all for joining us this morning. As always, I'd love to know who you are and where you're zooming in from. If you could put that information in the chat box on Zoom or in the comments on Facebook Live, we'd love to welcome you personally into Coffee Hour. We will be getting started in just a minute or two. Thanks for joining us. Again, we want to know who you are and where you're zooming in from. Let us know where you are today. You can drop that information in the chat or in the comments on Facebook Live. I see Lauren from Eagleville representing the class of 1990, a classmate of Mike. Good to welcome you in. Casey Moore, a friend and fellow ambassador with Mike. Oh my gosh, it's like old home week. Brian, EMS, class of 1990. Kelly Frager from Mount Airy, Maryland. It's going to be a reunion for you today, Mike, with all of your friends and fellow Lion ambassadors zooming in today. Emily Stengel is in Connecticut, class of 2016. Mike Lukács in class of 89 in Pittsburgh. It is an ambassador reunion, Mike. Dave Brunning from outside Washington, D.C., brother-in-law to Christy Ritz, fellow Lion ambassador from 1990, and Diane Whalen. Wow, it is. We should just call this Lion Ambassador Hour and not Coffee Hour. That is great. So many people walking to the Zoom backwards this morning with their coffee. We'll be getting started in just a minute. Thanks for joining us. I see Darlene Babcock woke up early from Walnut Creek, California. Oh, I see Robbie Cossack. Good to see your name in here, Robbie. Class of 76 in the Bay Area. Again, waking up early as well to join us. Where else would you rather be than a Zoom full of Penn Staters? And this morning, a Zoom full of Lion Ambassador alumni. I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and welcome to the Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. On Coffee Hour, you can expect to hear the voices of Penn Staters talking about what they're passionate about, and you can expect to feel the pride and the power of the Penn State Network. We are recording this session, and closed captions are available for this event. You can find that information in the chat in Zoom or in the comments on Facebook. Well, today we are going to talk with Mike Xenakis. Mike received a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Penn State in 1990. He's going to tell you how he uses that degree every single day in the work that he does. He was commissioned and served 6 years as an Air Force intelligence officer. He spent time overseas and worked at the National Security Agency and even served some time at the White House. After leaving the Air Force, Mike received an MBA from Northwestern in 1998 and worked in brand management at Clorox in Oakland before joining Opentable in 2000 in San Francisco, where he remained for over 16 years. In 2012, he relocated to London as the managing director of European operations there for Opentable. Today, Mike is the chief product officer at Vacasa. He serves on various boards, advises startups, and teaches a grad course at Northwestern. Mike and his wife, Yana, have 2 boys, and they reside in Lafayette, California. Let's take a walk backwards through Mike Xenakis' history. Mike, welcome to Coffee Hour, presented by the Penn State Alumni Association.
There we go. Oh, it's great to be here. As I was saying to you earlier, Paul, I didn't do the time zone check when I signed up for this. So it was a bit of surprise looking last night and figuring out what time I had to get up, but happy to be here.
Well, we're excited that you're able to join us and that you're allowing us to pass your story on to fellow Penn Staters. Let's start right at the beginning. How did you become a Penn State Nittany Lion?
Yeah, it's actually a somewhat random story because I grew up wanting to go to Notre Dame. So that was kind of all I thought about. And I applied to Notre Dame. I got into Notre Dame. I had a scholarship to Notre Dame. So it was kind of a done deal. And I had applied to Penn State because a woman came to the high school and talked about Penn State, and it was pretty exciting to hear her describe her story. So it was sort of a second or an afterthought. I went to visit Notre Dame with my dad and was done. And then on the way home, he said, well, you got into Penn State. We should at least stop by. Never seen it. And I said, sure. And literally the second we walked on campus, I remember it was a beautiful day. Everyone was out on the hub lawn. Something connected. And it was one of those moments where I just knew that's where I had to go to college, and turned to my dad and said, never mind, this is where I'm going. And the rest is history. So it was the best decision of my life. And it actually served me well giving tours as a Lion ambassador, explaining my choice of college.
We had some epic battles against Notre Dame during your time in school. I remember the '86 game was a nail biter. I remember it was probably right after you graduated when Craig Fayak kicked that was field goal against the then #1 Notre Dame Fighting Irish to knock them out of a national championship run.
That's exactly right. No, that for me, being a freshman in '86 was pretty special. National championship year, I seared into my mind as Pete Giftopoulos intercepting the ball from Testaverde on 4th and goal at the Fiesta Bowl. So pretty great way to kick off my connection to the Nittany Lions.
Absolutely. And there's your story isn't unique, right? I stopped at Penn State on the way home, and kind of the echoes of generations past were awoken and spoke to me that day and said, this is the place for you. So
I think that's right. Either that or all the co-heads out on the hub lawn, I think, was part of it as well. But it was pretty clear I needed to go there.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, you came to Penn State and you were really involved as a student. You were involved in many things, including walking backwards into history as a Lion ambassador. Talk about your campus involvement as a student.
Yeah, so it was great. I mean, part of it was I was Air Force ROTC, so I guess that was the starting point on activity. Although that was less of a volunteer thing; it was a requirement. But I signed on with Ambassadors, which clearly was the most, I'd say, important organization I belong to. My closest friends are part of that group. I know many of them are on this call today. I still stay in touch, going back this fall to connect with the large group as well. I did Lion's Paw. I was part of Parmanu. Where I could get involved, I got involved. The university is so special in that regard. And my fondest memories are probably tied to many of the organizations I participated with.
Let's dig into some of those memories. You mentioned the memory of Pete Giftopoulos, but what are some of your other favorite memories from your time here at Penn State?
Yeah, I think I would add, going back to the organizations, the entry into them and the different events. So Lion Ambassadors had a retreat when called the fall retreat when you got in, and it was first time being exposed to the organization. And so that first event, really think about fondly. Dance marathon, I would imagine everyone on this call would put that up there on the top of their list, whether they danced or not. I danced my senior year. I'm told that I I have to get back. I've been told by friends that it's a spectacular event now and something alumni should do. So I look forward to doing that in the future. But what was great with Penn State is, yes, there were really memorable events that were, organized or significant. But I think some of the great memories are, walking across campus on a fall day and just everything's perfect in the crisp air, or it's going for a coffee or grabbing a beer on Friday afternoon, seeing Chris Mincer in the Skeller playing music at happy hour. Like those things still resonate today.
This is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm joined by Mike Xenakis. He's the Chief Product Officer for Vacasa. Mike, you graduate from Penn State and you start your 6-year stretch of service through the U.S. Air Force as an intelligence officer, which took you all the way to the White House. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. So there was actually a stop before the Air Force. So when I graduated, the military was downsizing. And so there was a delay going after your commission to go active duty. So I actually moved out to LA with my brother and lived on Hermosa Beach. And I worked at a newspaper called Creative Syndicate. And I spent my days calling people, telling them to pay their bills. So it was an interesting first job out of college. But ultimately, yeah, I started my Air Force career actually in San Angelo, Texas. That's where the Air Force has its intelligence school. So I was a signals intelligence officer. So it was 6 months of training there. A little bit of a fish out of water. For those who've never been to San Angelo, it is Texas. We used to go out to a bar called Texas The Club. That was the name. So you can imagine the clientele. But ultimately, my first real assignment was to Crete, the island of Crete in Greece, which was a pretty good combination for a young second lieutenant named Xenakis. And I spent 18 months there, and it was unbelievable. The work was quite interesting, but just the exposure to be away and to be in a foreign country and to be able to travel. In fact, one of the actually a couple of folks on this call, Lisa and Mike Lukac, both made trips over while I was there, which was wonderful to have friends make that effort to come over. So from Crete, I made my way back to the States outside of Washington, D.C., the National Security Agency, as you mentioned. Again, really unique experience. Really enjoyed my work there. While I was there, I got additional assignments. I spent time in Naples, Italy, working with NATO. I spent time in Frankfurt, Germany. And then, as you mentioned, I got an assignment my last year in the Air Force, a joint assignment at the White House. So I was what was called a military social aide. This was back during the Clinton administration. And I would spend time at the White House at various events. So, it could be a state dinner, a social gathering, a treaty signing. It could be a national championship, sports celebration where they bring the teams in. It was such a unique, wonderful experience. Had an incredible time, saw some amazing things. And it's probably worth with this group on the call today to share one of the events because it'll connect to everyone here. So I had the pleasure of attending the Italian state dinner. And, there's quite a few famous Italian Americans. And the Clintons were very connected to the entertainment industry. So just an unbelievable set of folks that were part of that event. And part of what you did as a social aide is you greeted the guests as they arrived at the White House. You would escort them upstairs. You would introduce them to the president and first lady. You would take them over to sort of mingle with the other guests and make sure that they were kind of on their way before you stepped away and got out of the picture. And one of the first people I escorted was Sophia Loren, which was a pretty neat experience, but it was topped by the Paternos. So Sue Paterno and Joe Paterno arrived at the White House. No one else at the event, in terms of the social aides, knew who they were. So no one really cared or got excited, and I kind of jumped the line on all the social aides to ensure I got linked up with the Paternos and got to walk them and introduce them to the president. And I'll close that story with when the dinner ended and the music started and the president and first lady do the first dance, everyone else just kind of sitting back, and suddenly the Paternos got up and started dancing, and it just turned the whole environment upside down. Everyone else followed suit. So it was great to see Penn State leading the way, and really special memory for me at the White House. Ultimately, as much as I enjoyed it, I was a captain at the time. I was at that crossroads in a career where, coming up 6 years in the Air Force, if I took another assignment, I would have been, pretty far down the path. You kind of reach the 10-year mark and you start to think, maybe I'll stick around for 20 and have the opportunity to retire. And so I knew it was time for me to make a change. And ultimately, especially with the work I did in the Air Force, there weren't a lot of transferable skills, at least that I was aware of. And I certainly didn't understand what the private sector was all about. And as you mentioned at the beginning about my aerospace engineering degree, I wasn't using that. So that's why I ultimately went back to school.
That's an amazing story about the Paternos. I've heard you tell it before, but it's just it's so wonderful to hear that story. And those of us who know their personality are not surprised that they were among the first to get up and dance. Mike, you mentioned leaving the service and then going back to Northwestern. Did you have a thought in mind as to when you went to business school?
Yep.
To get your MBA, what direction you wanted that to go? We're going to talk about your entrepreneurial journey in a minute. Was that where you were intending to go, the entrepreneurial route?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think the starting point for me was discovery. Just feeling like I needed to go back to school, get a foundation in business, and more importantly, just be exposed to other people from industries and form relationships, and hopefully, open the door or have discovery about what I want to do. Now, in the back of my mind, and I think most students who go back to business school in the back of their mind say, and someday I want to run my own business, right? It's kind of there. And I had that, but I certainly didn't show up with an expectation that when I got out of school, I was going to launch something or had an idea. And while I was there, the exposure to different industries, banking, consulting, brand management, et cetera. The thing that resonated initially was brand management, because it just felt like the closest thing to overall general management and exposure to all aspects of a business. And so that's why I started. I actually did an internship at Kraft and then made my way out to the Bay Area to Clorox and worked on the Armor All brand. I'm sure most people don't realize the Clorox is in the automotive business, but they owned Armor All and STP. And it was while I was out here. So I came out to the Bay Area in 98. And what you have to realize is in 1998, it was sort of the peak, 98 into 99, the absolute peak of the first dot-com boom. Like everyone was in tech, and all these classmates of mine that came out here were at some startup and had some crazy job title. And we're talking about some business that made no money, but it was valued at some crazy number. And so I was intrigued by it all, and in many ways felt like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I don't want it to pass me by. And so I actually left Clorox with a fellow classmate from Kellogg who was there, and we partnered up with 3 other Kellogg classmates to launch our own business, to do the entrepreneurial thing. And if this was live, I'd ask. If everyone was in person, I'd ask them to show of hands of how many people know about the company called carestreet.com. And I'd look around the room, and of course, no one would have their hand up because our business never got off the ground. But that was my first foray. And when we pulled the plug on CareStreet, I had to find a job. My wife, credit to her, was very supportive when I left Clorox to try and do my own thing. But after a while, with no income, coming out of business school, thinking about starting a family, she was like, all right, you got to get a real job. And that's when I landed at Opentable. And it was simply a fortuitous connection with a good friend at Clorox whose husband started the company. And she said, you should go talk to Chuck, go talk to my husband. he's doing this really cool thing. And when I did,
Right.
I was sold immediately.
Now, Opentable was a little bit different than some of the other models that you
That's right.
described during the boom. They actually had a business model that generated revenue. Was that a big driver in you?
Yeah,
going
that's
that
right.
direction?
Yeah. So I mean, I looked at a lot of things, and back then, it was so crazy on the hiring front. It literally was employers were just looking for someone with a pulse. So you had lots of opportunities. It wasn't because I was unique or had some special skill. So I had the opportunity to, I guess, kick the tires on a lot of startups. And what you found is, yeah, many of them back then, they referred to how many eyeballs do you have on your website? And that was driving the valuations. And Opentable was a real business. And what I loved about it is it was this two-sided marketplace. So it was actually selling software to restaurants, to small businesses. And that was tangible. They had built something. There was a software subscription. We were installing hardware. You could see it and touch it and see the value that the restaurants ascribed to the product. The second piece was the online business, and that was the vision for the founder, was to do for restaurants what Expedia and Travelocity did for airlines and Hotels.com did for hotels. And so this online piece, you could see the long-term opportunity, but it didn't require out of the gate for that to take root for you to have something reasonable. Now, to be clear, we got lucky. Like we had raised, I joined and we raised $10 million. It's called the Series A round. And we're investing that and expanding pretty rapidly. Everyone was taking money they raised and blowing through it as fast as they could to go out and raise more money. And we went out to raise a Series B round and raised about $40 million. I honest to God, the check must have hit our bank account the day the dot-com bubble burst, because the day after we put the money in the bank, there was no capital left. You could not raise money. Everything was going away. So we were able to hunker down. We got lucky. We were able to hunker down and change the way we thought about the business, change the way we thought about the growth trajectory, be judicious in the investments we made, thoughtful about it, and then methodically build the business back. And because of that, we were able to eventually get enough restaurants utilizing our software such that there was now value to the diner. The diner now had a reason to go to the website and say, wow, kind of interesting way to make a reservation versus calling. And the more diners we got using the software or using the website, the more value was created for the restaurants. And it just fed on itself, and a typical network effects business. And that's what it was. And then the flywheel started, and we got really confident about how we could replicate it city by city. We had I'll call it NFL football city model. Anywhere that had an NFL team was a good target for us. And just built it and executed it. And back to your original question, yeah, it was a unique in that regard, because it was what today you would say was a reasonable business that was trying to build something.
So your run at Opentable is coming to an end. You moved back to the Bay Area. What were you thinking was going to be your next step?
Yeah, so as you mentioned up front, I spent the first 12 years running the product management group, and we took the company public in 2009. And then I moved to London in 2012 to run the European business. While I was over there, we got purchased. It was called the Priceline Group at the time. Now they refer to themselves as Booking Group. They own Booking.com and Priceline and Kayak and rental cars, et cetera. And when that acquisition took place, obviously there's a change. You build a company, you build it with a team of people that were together all those years. And it's kind of like you come to the end of the road. So I stuck around 2 extra years. Part of the deal on the acquisition was sticking around, but also we loved being in London. So when I decided it was time to go, and I was the last man standing, the exec team back in the States had all gone their separate ways, and I would dial in or come back for exec meetings and listen to conversations. And I was the old man saying, yeah, we tried that back in 2011. And I knew it was time to move on. So when I came back, the starting point was to take a year off. And I was fortunate that I could do that. And my wife went back to work when we returned. And I just wanted to take a deep breath. And I didn't have anything specific I was looking for. And I ultimately thought I'll go back and get another operator role. Maybe this time try to actually run something. And it was in the short period I was back that things just started coming my way. And it was an interesting life lesson of just allowing things to come at you versus necessarily going towards them. And so I received some calls from private equity firms, and they had some portfolio companies they thought I would be a good fit for in terms of joining the boards. So I did that. I decided I wanted to go substitute teach at my kids' high school because I always thought about being a teacher, and this was going to be the closest thing I could do. So I did that. I received a call from Northwestern. The business school, they found out I was back and not working, and they said, "Hey, we're trying to launch a program in San Francisco. Would you team up with us to help us launch it?" So I said, sure. So I started doing that, which is, 3 months a year. I host a bunch of students out here who are interested in growth stage companies or venture capital. And then I got a professor who reached out and said, "Hey, I teach a class at Evanston. I'd love to have it taught in San Francisco. Would you be interested in that?" And I said, sure. And then a nonprofit, I joined a couple nonprofits. And then I started volunteering to drive elderly around to get them to go to the store, go to the hospital. It's an organization called Mobility Matters. So a year in, I had pieced together this tapestry of things that I really enjoyed, and I liked the flexibility and the lifestyle. And so I was kind of done. Like I had decided this is what I wanted to do going forward. And that was the plan. And then I accidentally went back to work about a year or so ago, completely unplanned. I have a good friend, a neighbor. He was former CEO of Opentable. He's sitting on the board of a company called Vacasa, which is up in Portland. And for those who don't know what it is, it's a vacation rental management company. So we have 30,000 homes that people give to us to manage and then list on Airbnb and Vrbo and Booking and our own site. And he was stepping in to be the interim CEO because they were moving the founder out. And his sole job was to spend a couple of days up there and find a new CEO. And so he asked me to join him. He just said, "Hey, can you come up a couple of days a week so we can alternate and I could just use a partner in crime?" And I'm like, you know what, that's not a bad way to kind of spend some time with a friend. And I went up for 2 days in March, and then the world changed. COVID locked everything down. Our business sort of had an existential threat because it's vacation rentals, and we started hemorrhaging cash, about $1 million a day. And we were going to go out of business. So we had to go raise a lot of money because we were uncertain of what the future held. And to do that, he had to commit to be the CEO, and I had to commit to be a full-time exec. So became the chief product officer. And we secured money, and then the world turned around in the vacation rental business, and it took off. And it just reflected the new normal of people working remotely and people being able to get out of their house and go anywhere. And so that business now is booming. It gave me something to do during COVID, and now I'm having fun with it. So I think I'll stick around a little while longer.
Now, Mike, when I look at your platform, right, my initial thought was that it might be a competitor of VRBO, but you mentioned that it's actually that there's maybe some partnership there.
That's correct.
Integration. Can you kind of walk us through differentiation?
Yeah. So the thing that people miss. So if you're a homeowner today and you have a second home and you say, "Hey, I want to list it on Airbnb or Vrbo or Booking or whatever," you can try and manage that yourself. You can hire your own housekeepers. You can hire your own maintenance crew. That's one option for someone with a vacation home. Another is they hire a local property manager. That's the typical thing. You have a home in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, and there's someone who manages 100 homes up there, and they do their best to try and list it and generate revenue for you. We come in and we take over that responsibility. So we either sell you, the homeowner, directly, or we acquire the property management companies, the local property management companies, and we overlay technology to allow us to scale it. So we manage 30,000 homes right now, and typically higher quality homes very focused on vacations versus a large suite of Airbnb being urban setting apartments. We then take those homes, in addition to managing them, and we've built hooks into Airbnb and Vrbo. And we have data scientists and machine learning engineers who are generating the pricing algorithms to optimize the revenue for the homeowner. We're 24/7. So the guest who books it, they're booking into a individual's home, but it's backed by Vacasa, meaning there's 24/7 customer support. There's a field ops team on the ground. And so, yeah, when we look at Airbnb, they're a partner. In fact, we're the largest supplier of vacation rental homes in the business. And so we're a valuable asset to them, and they're valuable to us because they generate a large portion of our reservation volume.
Mike, as I look at your background, I see, and maybe they're complementary forces that are at work here, but I see the entrepreneur, the kind of laser focused, I want to grow the business that I'm working in. And then the teacher and mentor and advisor side. How do you find a balance and kind of feed both of those passions that you have?
Yeah, for me, I was lucky in that I could go really deep on one, starting with Opentable, and really commit to it. And it's required when you're launching a startup, like you are all in. And that's what I did. And it was interesting that, to stay so long at a company, I literally would do an annual sort of self-assessment of, all right, do I want to do this another year? And I'd go through the checklist of, am I still having fun? Am I enjoying the people I'm with? Am I learning? Am I being challenged? Do I like the way the business is growing? And the answer was yes, and I'd stick around another year. The balance for me, the further I got into my career at Opentable, the easier it is to sort of manage and do your job, just that comes with experience, which allowed me, even while at Opentable, to be involved in some boards. I served on a board while I was in London called British Car Auctions. And I started advising startups in an informal way, right? So willingness to take phone calls with founders, provide advice. And so I had a nice balance. And it was only with, this fortuitous situation of coming back to the States and being able to completely step away from, I'll call it the full-time job, that I could really find the time to explore these other avenues of interest. And, for me, it's part of it, I think, has come from just the way I was raised. My dad was a career Army officer. I moved every 3 years. Like I was born in Turkey and lived all over the US, and then was in the Air Force and moved every couple of years. And so I just have always had an itch of something new. There's something more out there. And so for me, it was about seeing this opportunity to explore that. And I don't think I'm done. This Vacasa thing is going on. I've joined now some formal boards for some startups. And I'm looking at something now back in London in terms of an advisor role. And I think when I pull the plug on Vacasa, I'll ask the question, what's next? I'm still thinking about it as just getting started. Because there's just, you get one pass at this. And so for me, it's been about trying to explore and do as many different things as I can and in many ways to find out if there's things out there I never even thought about that would pique my interest. Now, to be clear, when I do pull the plug on Vacasa, I'm also planning to play a lot of golf, visit a lot of friends, go to a lot of Penn State football games. So there will be that nice transition as well. But I'm pretty sure there's something else, another chapter in the story.
Mike, I wonder if you'd maybe give us a little bit of perspective. I'm going to ask you to be a little bit vulnerable here and maybe take us through the times in your life where you've asked what's next, right?
Yeah.
You're a smart, confident guy. You come out of business school and you have your initial startup, right? I'm sure there was some fear that you were dealing with, some kind of unknown. And it doesn't work out the first time.
Yep.
What's that conversation like? Should I go back to something like Clorox? Should I jump in with Opentable? How did you talk through that? What was your internal conversation around something?
Yeah, I think the internal conversation, there's a couple pieces to it. So one, again, is sort of recognizing where you are, stage of life, and opportunities presented, and asking, if I don't do it now, will I have an opportunity again? And will I regret that? And If the answer is, yeah, I think I could really regret this, it makes it easier to say, well, then I'm gonna sort of put my chips on the table on this opportunity. To be clear, it's coupled with having someone who supports you. And in my case, my wife, Yana, like, have someone who's a cheerleader for you saying, yeah, go do it again. It's okay. I have, confidence in you, probably more than I had in myself, and belief. Now, had I, gone a few more years and failed again and no income coming in and we're raising kids, I think the story would have changed, and rightfully so. But I think that's a big piece of it. And I advise or mentor entrepreneurs today, and I tell them they should seek out other mentors. And it's something for anyone in their career to find people who've done something that you're interested in doing and have, sort of navigated that path, and hear their stories so you can build confidence that, yeah, failure is part of the equation and that's okay. And in fact, take the learnings from failure and use it to your advantage. And so that was part of my mindset. And again, I go back to, as I think about sort of decisions I've made each step of the way, I start with, will I regret, not taking a chance here? Even the White House. So I talked about joining the White House. The first time I applied, I got rejected. And I have no idea why. I got all the way to the end in interviews, and actually, I probably do know why. One of the interview was a disaster. The first time I applied to be it. There was a question which was a crazy question to hear from a colonel who asked me, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? Which I can't even believe that was part of it. But I went with monkey and then completely panicked because in my head I saw an erratic, uncontrolled monkey. So I started saying, but I'd be a good monkey, not a bad monkey, which makes no sense. And I just kept digging a hole. So that was probably why I didn't get it. But anyways, I went back and applied again, like the following year, because I just felt I was a good fit for what the role was. And it was something I wanted to do. And it was going to be the last time. You can only get the assignment when you're in DC. You can only get the assignment when you're single, because there's some international protocols about single or married people escorting women and whatever. So yeah, it's a willingness to say, yeah, I might not get it. I might fail. This might not work out, but let me give it a try. And then the piece I'd add on goes, and I'm repeating myself, but at Opentable each year, it literally was like, am I learning? Am I being challenged? Am I having fun? And if you're working somewhere where you're excited to go to work, like, you smile when you think about the day, it's a pretty good place to be. And you try to seek that out. And if you don't have that, you should step back and ask yourself, can I take another run at something else and see if I can find it? And so that's how I thought about my career.
Absolutely. Mike has a suggestion for you in the chat. The obvious answer to that question is should have been Nittany Lion. You should have told him that you wanted to be a Nittany Lion, Mike Lusak.
Yes, exactly.
That. Amazing. So this is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm with Mike Xenakis. He is the Chief Product Officer for Vacasa. He is joining us at 6:38 in the morning on the West Coast. We're so grateful for him. And for those of you who have also awoke to hear Mike's story. Mike, we like to have a little bit of fun here on Coffee Hour. So we call it our lightning round. So I'm going to ask you just a couple quick hitter questions.
Okay.
And see what your thoughts are. Craziest thing that happened to you on a Lion Ambassador tour?
Wow, this is tough on a lightning round. Craziest thing that maybe the craziest thing is it was a semi tour. Someone showed up on campus. I was working in the little security booth. There were no tours. So I left my job and hopped in their car and went off with them and gave them their own personal tour. I think it might have sealed the deal for them on coming to school.
That's amazing. How about your favorite class at Penn State?
Favorite class? So I was an aerospace engineer, so it won't be any of my core classes. I would go with Theater 100, actually. So if that's still a course there, and the professor, her name was Helen, I don't remember her last name. Pretty good that I can remember her first name. It was an awesome course, a fun class, and good to get out of the aerospace normal coursework.
So I'm going to change this next question up a little bit. Besides someone in your family, if you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be and why? And where would you book that dinner on Opentable?
So Tom Brady, and I don't think I have to answer why. I think that's obvious. Why wouldn't anyone want to have dinner with Tom Brady?
Because he went to Michigan.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know. Okay, fair enough. Maybe that's a bad answer for this call. So, and I would go to Slanted Door. It's probably my favorite restaurant in the Bay Area, Vietnamese cuisine.
Oh, excellent. Your most unusual we are moment. You've traveled the world. You've gone through numerous airports. You've, wear your Penn State gear. Where's the most unusual place that you heard we are that caught you off guard?
Iceland. So Iceland, and when you travel, and to be honest with you, I could have said that about any of the countries. We had the great fortune to travel a ton while we were in London. I think 30 something countries in the 4 years we were there. And it is something special to be able to have on the hat or the sweatshirt, and literally every airport, everywhere you go, someone's going to shout out the "We Are." And my kids love it. My wife was always a little hesitant with me shouting back, but yeah, I'll put Iceland up there as one of the unique ones.
How about your favorite Penn State sport?
Football, period. Yeah, full stop.
And your favorite flavor of creamery ice cream?
It's got to be Death by Chocolate is probably on the list. So
that is a popular choice. That is wonderful. Mike, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Coffee Hour and for allowing to pass your story on to fellow Penn Staters. It's when we talk about Penn Staters doing great things in the world that elevates the Penn State degree that we all hold. And we're truly grateful you've allowed us to pass your story on this morning.
You bet. Love being here. Thanks for inviting me as a guest.
And I want to thank everybody who's joining us here on Zoom or on Facebook Live. If you're a member of the Penn State Alumni Association, thank you for your support. If you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Go to our website today at alumni.psu.edu, and you too can become a member of the world's largest alumni association. Thanks for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State!